千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. So, to really drive home the point Lao Tzu is trying to make about arrogant behaviors, I would like to lay them out and show expectations versus reality. What I mean is, what the arrogant person does, the results that he expects, as opposed to what he gets. So this slide is called Arrogance Assumptions versus Actuality. We have the manifestations of arrogance on the left-hand column. Then assumption, that is what the arrogant person expects by engaging in those thoughts or actions. Then finally, the column on the right is the actuality of it, what they actually get. So first, we have flaunting as a manifestation of the ego. So, of course, we know just from experience that the purpose of flaunting is to direct the spotlight to oneself. So the assumption is that by flaunting, you will gain a higher profile. You will get more visibility. You expect to be seen as special. You expect to receive admiration and respect. What about the actuality? Well, you end up being regarded as just another show-off. You reveal yourself as being needy or desperate for attention. So the opposite of what one would like. The second manifestation of arrogance is those who presume, the presumption of correctness. So the arrogant person thinks his views should be regarded as clearly superior to others. That is the expectation. Superior opinions regarded as such, held as such by everybody. So this person thinks those who disagree with him obviously don't know any better. The actuality? Well, people look at him and all they see is a pompous individual, self-righteous. And they don't pay that much attention. They don't think that he is distinguished because pomposity is very common. And rather than to point out any flaws in his opinions, people may just turn away. They may not want to say anything. But whatever they do, the reality is that the superior person who thought of himself that way, the person who assumes his own superiority, is not seen as distinguished at all. Quite the opposite. Next, we have those who praise themselves. Self-praise. When somebody engages in praising himself, the expectation is that it will be recognized. The merits will be widely recognized by everybody. Now, you and I know just from real life experience what happens when we see somebody who does that. Everybody has a natural dislike of self-praise. And whatever good was actually done by this arrogant person can be discounted or discarded. Therefore, that's why I say self-praise short-circuits any merit. What people remember is not the accomplishment, the merit, or the credit, but the attempt to compensate for insecurity, and therefore no merit. Lastly, we have those who boast. The assumption of this person who's boasting is that the success they are boasting about will continue. But sooner or later, the house of cards will collapse. The arrogant person will stumble. There's nobody around to help him get back up. So, actuality is failure and disgrace. This person cannot last in terms of being seen as a success. So this is why Lao Tzu says the negative consequences of those who flaunt, presume, praise themselves, or boast is that they end up not clearly seen, not distinguished, not worthy of merit, and they cannot last. So, as I mentioned, because of the importance of this particular lesson, arrogance versus humility, it's repeated. And in fact, there are two chapters that are closely related. 24, this one being one of them. The other one is 2 chapters ago, 22. So I think it will shed some light if I were to lay them out side by side so that we can compare them. So 道德经 22, it says, without flaunting themselves, and so are seen clearly, without presuming themselves, and so are distinguished, without praising themselves, and so have merit, without boasting about themselves, and so are lasting. These are very similar to what we're studying now in 24. Many of the characters are repeated, and there is a one-to-one correspondence. 4 lines. In 24, it is, those who flaunt themselves are not clear. Those who presume themselves are not distinguished. Those who praise themselves have no merit, and those who boast about themselves do not last. So you can tell when we set them side by side in this manner that these are just different ways of saying the exact same thing. 22 shows what happens when you do not engage in these harmful practices that are stemming from the ego. In 24, the current chapter, it shows what happens when you do engage in such practices. Each one of these lines has the same sentence structure to all the others in the same group. Each occurrence is divided into arrogant thoughts versus arrogant actions. Here's what I mean by that. For both 22 and 24, the first two lines about flaunting and presumptions, these are all originated in the mind. These are thoughts regarding oneself. So what happens when you flaunt is because you hold these overinflated opinions about yourself. So that's in the mind. The second line there, the presumption of correctness, that is because you have the same overinflated opinions about your views, that you are more correct than anybody else. So these both have a lot to do with the mind. Then, for the third and fourth lines, we have manifestations not in the mind, but taken into action in our interactions with other people as we live our lives. To praise yourself, self-praise, is something that you do in the presence of other people. And same with boasting. So the distinctions here is the yin and yang complementary duality, where yin is the internal manifestation, while the yang is the external. So the last point is to combine both styles of expression to draw conclusions. We can tell flaunting and to be seen clearly, to be perceived, they are diametrically opposite. One excludes the other. You cannot have both. Same with the presumption of correctness and being distinguished. They're just not compatible with each other. It has to be one or the other. And you can apply this to praising yourself as well. They are opposed. Praising yourself, you've got no merit. Refrain from praising yourself, you end up with merit, because something good that you have done, the praise is coming from other sources. And lastly, boasting and being able to last are also in opposition. You can only get lasting respect if you are not someone who's boasting. The one who does boast cannot have that. So this is an area in life that I know a lot of people are already aware of. That is, people don't like when they perceive somebody as arrogant. However, that awareness may not translate into changes of actions for many. When people look at this, they may say, oh, I already know this stuff. I know I should not be arrogant because being arrogant is not good for me. But then you see them engaging in one of the four behaviors noted here. It is because people tend to see others more clearly than they can see themselves. That's why we have to emphasize, we have to repeat. The purpose in the Tao is that you and I will recall this lesson to mind when we are in various life situations. And that's how we can turn that awareness into the Tao of humility. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.